Watching news at Prime, let's bring you this now. Human Settlements Minister Thembi Simelane says 90% of the 34 billion rand allocated for the current financial year will be transferred as grants to provinces and metros. She tabled her department's budget vote in the National Assembly today. The Democratic Alliance, which is the second biggest partner in the government of national unity, has already indicated that it will not support her budget. This is due to corruption allegations against her. Well, the minister joins us now to react to some of what has been said and, in particular, the plans for your budget. Good evening to you, Minister Simelane. Let's start with the controversial. The Democratic Alliance spelling out that they see you as one of the corrupt ministers, therefore you can't be entrusted with such a huge budget in such an important department. How do you respond to that?
Well, I see them as inconsistent as well, if they've got a say on how they see me. But I tabulated a budget on behalf of South Africans who are the beneficiaries and the custodians of the programs and the basket that Human Settlement and its entities is supposed to deliver for the financial year, of course, crossing over to the MTDP as aligned by the priorities of the 7th administration. I actually feel that, of course, it has once happened in our country, a trial without charges. This is what I'm undergoing. And I did express it to at the debate with regard to the inputs of the DA. The DA told you, Xoli, and many others who were able to listen, that they've gone to the police to report a case for investigation. So why not wait for law enforcement agencies? The Honorable Poole says I need to be tried by a judge. Where have you seen a judge at least post the democratic dispensation, which will just call a person in the street and try it because the DA went to the media? This is actually a trial by the media. Even the Vetroven case that they're talking about, after them opening a case, which they say they are giving an update, I'm wondering what is the update about? The police have never came to me. Eskom, in their investigation by one big 5 firms legally in the country, never even interviewed me. In their records and their findings are not even mentioned. So what is this about that actually makes them not to even wait for the very same case that they've opened so that I can be able to avail myself in the investigation office? Yeah. They've got a political agenda to pretend that this budget is not about. This is about custodians who deserve to be served with human settlement basket that we carry with our entities. It has nothing to do with who tabulates it.
Yeah. I'm going to move on in a moment, Minister, but this is important because South Africans also want to see whether or not you are a transparent minister who is able to take responsibility if indeed called upon to account for your actions. And so the question I put to you next is whether you would wait for you to be charged in order for you to step aside, at least that's the ANC rule, or you would do the reasonable thing, and that is to simply step aside from the role if indeed you believe that something wrong was done on your part. Is that why you remain where you are?
You wouldn't even ask me if I knew that something was wrong. I wouldn't have even accepted the role in the beginning. So there's nothing reasonable that calls for. Xoli, it just took a call away from you and your team to get hold of me. SAPS is all over. I don't know how many police stations do they have. I'm talking to you in the city of Cape Town, as I am.
Yeah.
The case was opened here. So if police are looking for Thembi Simelane, they will find her with ease, just the same way as you did. There is no issue here. I am saying to you, between 2019 and 2021, Eskom with the SIU undertook an investigation which is being tabled. It has got not even my name. I was not even interviewed. I actually got to learn of that investigation through the journalists who posed questions. I looked for that report. It does not have my name.
All right.
I'm saying to you, I will avail myself if any law enforcement agencies call me for any form of accountability. But what I can't accept is politicking and trial by the media, where I cannot be able to perform my functions. That's
All
not
right.
what I'm going to allow.
Okay, let's end it this way. John Steenhuisen, who leads the Democratic Alliance, is a fellow cabinet minister. He's your colleague. You sit in cabinet. I wonder what that relationship is going to look like going forward. But here is the question,
I hold
Minister.
no grudges, Oli. I have no qualms about it. He remains my colleague. Even if he can be out of cabinet or I can be out of cabinet, he will remain my colleague.
Yeah.
And that's where I am. I have got no gripe about it.
So
I carry a responsibility of serving South Africans.
Yeah.
I can't be guilty. I need to provide leadership in this instance, and I will.
So here's my question, and it's a political question because you are a politician and you serve in the highest decision-making body of the African National Congress. It's called the NEC. If this matter of the Democratic Alliance and its stance were put to a vote in that NEC, and a vote says, are you for the DA staying in the GNU, or are you for the DA being expelled from the GNU? How would you vote?
NEC discussions are private discussions, and I will never even deliberate on issues of what will happen inside the NEC, but voting I will as a member of the ANC.
But you won't tell us which way you'll vote.
No, it is not. It is for only the National Executive Committee which will deal with that. But by the way, we're not even seized so much about even getting into a vote. We're seized with the issues which have got priorities of South Africans as hard as the African National Congress at the highest level, really, of servicing our country. We'll be called to account on our budgets. We'll be called to ensure how did we prioritize South Africans, because the ANC is calling for a better life for all. That's what we're seized with.
Minister, let's then get to grips with what you are going to do with your budget. But the hurdle is going to be whether it is ultimately passed. The higher education and training one seems to not have been given the stamp of approval, at least at the NCOP. How do you plan to get it over the line? Perhaps that's your first hurdle.
The hurdle actually is the National Assembly hurdle. As I'm saying, it is on the basis of what the department has to offer to South Africans, and not Thembi the person or Thembi the family. This budget is about South Africans, including the budget of higher education. It's about students, it's about ensuring that the skills development and many other priorities that they put as part of higher education and learning. So it actually falls short of any discussion if we personalize the tabulation of budgets. Even the budget that will be tabulated by Minister Steenhuisen himself, it's not about him. It's about farmers in this country. It's about making sure that we increase the food basket, not for him, not for his family, but for South Africans. So it will be the National Assembly that decides that people of South Africa are not worthy to be served and to be given the services that they are supposed to get. But I'm hard at work. Tomorrow, I'm in the office at work to make sure that the task that I'm seized with of housing the nation is carried through to the best of my ability.
34 billion is what is allocated to human settlements, at least for this financial year. Where are your key priorities?
Well, Toli, our key priorities, as I've articulated them, are in quite a various bit of a basket. But we're trying to chase tremendously the blocked projects, or what we call incomplete projects, which we have a basket of about 177 countrywide. And we're targeting all of them, from social housing, the rental package, CRUs, which are community residential units, you can call them hostels, So we've tried to create a basket and a division of what we say to our provinces through their business plan, as you correctly indicated, that a large portion actually of this billions is going into a concurrent function, which is actually even amazing because it does indicate that that budget will not actually be overseen by Minister Simelane largely, except for oversight, because it is handed over to MECs who are supposed, and metros, which is executive mayors, who are supposed to tabulate that budget, or rather to implement on that budget. Ours is jointly to assess business plans with them, which are targeting the elderly in terms of our BNG program, which is loosely called our RDP houses, our service stands, which is where our priority is, because our list and beneficiaries is actually larger in terms of people who are outside the criteria of qualification in terms of what you call as a classification of who do we prioritize, which is the elder, people with disabilities, child-headed household. Yes. Why are young people in the list? Me and you know very well, we need to fight the scourge of unemployment and make sure that we create more jobs. But what do we offer in the meantime? We do believe that HDA, through the 4,075 informal settlement, we've already mapped that. We know which land is not suitable. We're trying at the second leg to then move and reallocate the people who are supposed to be going into areas where it best can be able to build. So that is why we have an item or a line item which is called service stands, where we put bulk and allocate you so that whatever you are able to build for yourself, in the meantime you can, while we are dealing with the backlog of the prioritized and categorized citizens of South Africa who need to be subsidized by government. We're having a huge backlog with regard to title deeds, which is one of the programs which we want to push. We're currently working on 80,000, but we do believe towards the end of the financial year, we could be able to account to over 300,000. If we're able to set an agreement with NEMA, with Public Works, with the rural development, in some of the projects which were implemented 15 years ago, but you don't issue title deeds precisely because there have been delays in the system where almost the upgrade of informal settlements were not formally registered. We need to accelerate that before we could be able to issue out. We are looking into innovative building technologies. You know the disaster which just happened in the Eastern Cape just last week, but many more others, KZN and all that, including the fires. What is the answer internationally with regard to that? They no longer build the way we are building. And what is one of our priorities is leveraging on technologies that NHBRC in its foundation and training and development of innovative technologies is putting a feet forward in ensuring that we do put our system. And we're hoping to be launching that around September this year to ensure that we just don't roll out in the obvious and logical way, which we have been doing in yesteryear, because climate change has proved that a way of yesteryear, and we need to be adaptive to the new conditions of what we are dealing with. Obviously, the old programs of first home financing and all that are clearly articulated on the budget.
Allow me to interrupt you there, because I think that's quite that's quite something to look forward to. The climate resilient kind of a home, and you're saying that will probably be launched in September, you say. I think many people would want to see what a climate resilient home looks like after a major disaster like the one that we saw in Mthatha. Can I end the conversation on this question, Minister, very quickly? I know you have to catch a flight, so try keep it short. The part of your budget is going to be transferred as grants to provinces and municipalities. There is a huge problem of monies being returned to either the national departments or mostly National Treasury. What should be the punishment? And I have to put it as a question in this way, that surely these people need to be punished, the accounting officers who are unable to spend budgets, and yet there is so much need on the ground for those monies.
I agree with you, and that is why in our performance audit, besides the financial audit which we undertake with the Auditor General, she goes beyond the call of what she's supposed to do, but into looking into who has played or not played the role by act or omission in what was supposed to be done. And quite a number of officials actually in relation to performance were attending also in this morning the committee on human settlement, the select committee. And they were asking that question. We have got officials who, on the basis of them not performing right all the way the value chain, what they are supposed to do. We are regrading, for example, Eburuleni, not in bad spirit, in a form of assistance so that they will be able to spend. They are one of our weakest metros in relation to what gets to be allocated for them, even if you measure the trend. We're assisting the province of the Western Cape, the province of Free State, and the province of the three, I'm forgetting one, which we are dealing with basic. Western Cape lost around 200 million in unspent. Free State lost around 50 million. And the third one also lost around 107 million, which was turned back into the human settlement kit and was reallocated to KZN, Mpumalanga and Limpopo combined on the basis of how best they're spending. So it's not that everybody doesn't spend. So you save the money from Free State, you allocate it to Limpopo, or you allocate it to Mpumalanga and KZN as an example of the past financial year. At least Treasury has shown mercy in terms of saying what has not been spent. Put a case and a point. For example, we've reviewed our grant allocation to allow municipalities to spend on their sewer, because what would you do with a house where the sewer running in front of you if their wastewater is not working well? What would you do with a house that has got no system that allows you to be a human settlement, even to spend on waste collection, provided they buy material that is related to waste collection, like tipper trucks and all that relates to waste collection, including open spaces where open gyms, recreation and all that in areas of residence are supposed to be done. So that's covering actually what is supposed to be as we create human settlements in the country.
Human Settlements Minister Thembi Simelane, thank you very much for your time.